So, hello there, and welcome back to yet another Night of the Movies podcast. And in these podcasts, I talk all things movies and TV, and whatever I want, whenever I want. And in today's podcast, to start off the Christmas season, because we are now in December, I am reviewing the Will Ferrel, Ryan Reynolds starring Christmas musical that came out last year, which is Spirited. But just before I do that, I should say what I say at the start of every podcast I do, which is, if you are watching this podcast on YouTube, hello to my viewers. But if you prefer to listen to your podcasts on Spotify, well, you are in luck, as you can listen to this podcast on Spotify at Night of the Movies on that platform. And if you are already listening to this podcast on Spotify, hello there to podcast listeners, then you can also check this podcast out visually on my YouTube channel at Night of the Movies on that platform as well. Likewise, whatever you may be watching or listening to this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the podcast, of course. And please, and I mean please, leave me with some feedback on things to improve on in future podcasts, because there's always things to improve on, and feedback is, as ever, much appreciated. So, let's get into it, shall we? I'm excited about this one. Let's get into it. Spirited. So, as I already said, this is the Will Ferrel, Ryan Reynolds starring Christmas musical that came out last year. And the reason I'm reviewing this today, and I've already sort of alluded to this in my introduction, but the reason I am reviewing this film today is because it's December. We officially, how many? 24 days away from Christmas? Sometimes I'll just lose track of time. But yes, we're in the Christmas season now. We are 24 days away from Christmas Day. And over the next 24 days, I am going to be reviewing Christmas movies and maybe talking about a couple of Christmas specials as well as the month goes on. So, I thought, why not start my Christmas film reviews? Why not start my Christmas reviews with a Christmas film that I wanted to watch last year when it came out, but one that I didn't have the time to watch, because, as what he said, this film came out last year. It came out last November, and I remember being quite interested in it. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of Will Ferrel and Ryan Reynolds, it looked like a film that, if it was good, would be a lot of fun to watch and would be one of those Christmas films that is just going to fill you with joy. But the thing is, last year, even though I was really looking forward to watching it, I was writing a number of very, very big essays. Big essays for film studies at uni, so I just didn't have the time to really check out many new films. I mean, I still checked out the new Avatar, which came out last year, and there was another film around the Christmas period that I still had time to check out, but only just because my schedule last Christmas was absolutely packed. So, even though I didn't watch Spirited last Christmas, I made a mental note to myself to watch it this Christmas, because it looked like a film which was going to work for me. And that is exactly what I did. I wanted to check it out this Christmas, and so a couple of days ago, that is what I did. And the plot for the film goes as follows. This is a musical version of Charles Dickens' Story of a Christmas Carol, the story which we all know, the story which the Muppets have covered in the best version. But this version, the version in Spirited, is told from the perspective of the ghost of Christmas Present, played by Will Ferrel in the film, and the Scrooge-like character that we see redeemed throughout the film, played by Ryan Reynolds. And in the film, we see what happens when the ghost of Christmas Present tries to redeem somebody who is quote-unquote unredeemable. And that is pretty much all you need to know about the film before you see it. And honestly, I was so happy I checked out this film at this point in the year, because I have not felt that Christmassy yet. I've got to be completely honest. Even though I've done some Christmassy things, I've been to the markets, I've been to some light switch-ons, whatnot, even though I've done some Christmassy things, it just hasn't felt like Christmas to me quite yet. That was until I watched this film the other day, and I just had the biggest grin on my face because it filled me with all this Christmas joy. And even though the film has so many problems, I mean, it's messy, tonally, it's all over the shop. It's jumping from this tone to it's quite a sad scene to it's quite a happy scene to an uplifting scene to a dark scene. It's jumping all over the place tonally, and parts of the film feel unnecessary, and their musical numbers just thrown in there for the sake of a musical number. There are comedic moments thrown in there just for the sake of comedy, not really for the sake of plot. And at the same time, there are way too many storylines going on. It's overblown in so many moments, and musical moments. It's like the directors behind the camera going, how much can we get in this one musical sequence? And it is cheese on the highest, and I mean on the highest level. This is a really cheesy Christmas film. Even though it has all those problems, it is so enjoyable to watch though, and it just fills you with Christmas joy. And it's exactly the sort of film I wanted to watch around this time of the year. I wanted to watch a new Christmas film, at least new to me, that was going to make me feel Christmassy. Because I know that films like The Muppets Christmas Carol, and even Die Hard for that matter, and Scrooged, which is one of my favourite Christmas films, I know that those films will fill me with Christmas. Will make me feel Christmassy. I know those films will do that, but I wanted a new film for me to do that this year, and that's exactly what I can't speak. That's exactly what happened with Spirited, and I think that's also the biggest reason it works, because it is a Christmas film, and it moves at such a pace that even though it has all these problems, and I'm not saying it doesn't, it really, I've listed all the problems it has a plethora of problems, this film does. Even though it has all those problems, it moves at such a pace that the problems don't become that annoying. They don't get in the way of the joy of the film because it moves at such a pace. And you have Will Ferrel and Ryan Reynolds spearheading this film and making it work, making it this really entertaining watch. I mean, I must admit, I'm not the biggest fan of Will Ferrel or Ryan Reynolds. Normally when I see them in a film, they give off a certain type of performance. In most of their films, I will say, you do get a couple of films when they do something different, like Will Ferrell's performance in Stranger Than Fiction is very interesting because it's very different than what he usually does. I think Ryan Reynolds has done a couple of performances like that in the past as well, but more often than not, they just give off the same performances in most of their films. And I'm not saying they do anything drastically different in this film, but I don't know why, but their shtick worked. Their performance that they usually do in comedies worked in this film. Like Ryan Reynolds in this film isn't that different than he is in another Christmas film, Just Friends. He gives off a very similar performance, and I didn't really like him in Just Friends. I thought his performance was a bit, I don't know, it just didn't really work for me. But in this film, even though it's a very similar performance, it did work for me. And Will Ferrell is channeling his inner buddy, because this is a second Christmas film, as far as I'm aware anyway. It's the second Christmas film that Will Ferrell has done, and everyone knows the first is Elf, of course, which is a Christmas classic, which everybody always refers to. Must admit, I don't love Elf as much as some people do, although, funnily enough, I am going watching it in the cinema this Saturday, but still, nonetheless. Yeah, he gives off he's channeling his inner buddy in this film, the character he played in Elf. He's channeling his inner elf, and there's actually a little sort of in-joke reference to Elf in this film, where they're at a Christmas party, Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds' character at a Christmas party, and they bump in somebody who's dressed like Will Ferrell's character Buddy in Elf, and he goes, "You look a bit weird. That's not a great costume." It was actually quite a funny moment, a moment that I found far funnier than it has any right to be, because this film does have some funny moments. Not all the comedy worked to me, but for Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds' film, the comedy worked to me more than I expected to, because I don't find Ryan Reynolds that funny. Sometimes I just got to admit, I don't find him that funny in Deadpool. I know everybody loves those films, but they're just not for me. But at the same time, his comedy is really good in this film, and it works. So does Will Ferrell's comedy, and their performances are charming. And not only do you have them two, you also have Octavia Spencer in a supporting role that is far more moving than it has any right to be. I mean, Octavia Spencer just has this presence every time she's on screen, and she gets given this really beautiful music number in this film called The View from Here. I think that's what it's called. Yes, that's what it's called. The View from Here. And she is really giving off in an emotive performance, and she's doing a lot of the heavy lifting with the emotional part of the film. You know, you get Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds, they're not in many of the emotional parts of the film, but at the same time, they leave all the emotional moments to Octavia Spencer, and she makes them work. And the film is heartfelt at times. There are a couple of moments I got a bit choked up. I was like, wow, this film is hitting me in the feels as every good Christmas film should do. It is touching a nerve with me emotionally, and it's working in doing that. And the musical numbers are all, well, they are something to watch, because every single musical number has about a gazillion things going on. They are way over choreographed, and everyone's smiling and everyone's jumping up and down with cheer, with Christmas cheer at that. And the musical numbers are way overdone. But at the same time, though, they work, because they have Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds frontlining those musical numbers, and that makes them bearable. I mean, the musical numbers, if it wasn't them two, front running, leading the musical numbers, if it wasn't them two leading the musical numbers, I might feel differently about them. I might have just sat there completely cringing. But I didn't. I didn't sit there cringing, because they made it work. They made it a bit self-knowing and going, oh, we're doing this again. Oh, my computer wants to speak to me. Anyway, yeah, they're going, oh, we're doing this again. Oh, we're going to here. Oh, this is the reprise moment. It's a reprise. It's a reprise. They have little moments like that in the musical numbers, and it just works. And, the songs aren't all catchy, but quite a few of them are, which is good enough for a Christmas musical. I mean, don't get me wrong, this film isn't nearly, and I mean nearly, as good as the best Christmas musical of all time, and we'll say it together right now. It's, of course, The Muppets Christmas Carol. That is the best Christmas musical of all time. That's not even subjective. I'm sorry, but it is, of course. But still, you get the point I'm making. It's just, that film is perfect. It's a perfect Christmas film. And this isn't as good as that Christmas musical. Of course it's not. Of course it's not as good as A Muppets Christmas Carol. But at the same time, the musical numbers, like I've already mentioned, some of them are quite catchy. The songs are. You have songs like That Christmas Morning Feeling. Even when I say the name of that song out loud right now, the tune of the song gets stuck in my head. Yeah, it's a really catchy song. Bring Back Christmas, I quite enjoyed that song. The Story of Your Life, Do a Little Good. And The View from Here, which I've already briefly spoken about, sung by Octavia Spencer, is a very, very good song. And the way it's used, it comes out of nowhere, and the film, as already mentioned, is a bit of a tonal mess, but it comes out of nowhere, and then at the same time, like, whoa! This is actually genuinely quite good. I mean, everything else in the film, it's been held together just about by Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell, and some of it's not quite working. Then Octavia Spencer comes in, sings A View from Here, and I'm like, wow. Yeah, you just owned the entire film in that one musical sequence. She is so good. Not all the musical numbers work, though, I will admit, and they're done by the same people. The musical numbers, as far as I'm aware, are done by the same people who did the musical numbers for The Greatest Showman. Must admit, I'm not a huge fan of that film. But anyway, you can tell that they're done by the same people who did the music for The Greatest Showman. Some of the songs sound similar, and there's one song in the film which is called Good Afternoon, and it sounds very similar to the song A Cover Is Not the Book from Mary Poppins Returns. That I didn't love that film, by the way, but I remember watching that in the cinema, And I remember actually quite enjoying that song, a cover of Not the Book from Mary Poppins Returns, which came out in Christmas of 2018. Don't know why I remember that, but anyway, I was watching Spirit the other day, and this musical number came up. Good afternoon. I was thinking this sounds quite similar to one of the songs in the Mary Poppins Returns musical numbers. It sounds quite similar to one of them. And then this morning, I went on Spotify and I looked up to see which one it was, and it's a cover of Not the Book. Their songs sound similar. I mean, they're not very similar to the point that they're almost identical, and it's like that whole Stairway to Heaven controversy where those are people, suing Led Zeppelin because apparently Led Zeppelin has stolen Stairway to Heaven from one of the tunes that this band made. It's nothing like that, but at the same time, the tune does sound similar to the point where I was like, oh, it's almost like the guys who wrote the song for Spirited watched Mary Poppins Returns, liked that tune, tweaked it a little bit, and put it into this film in their own way. But at the same time, the musical numbers work. I mean, they're way overdone. I prefer musical numbers in films where the choreography isn't quite as tight as it should be. I don't know why, I just like that. But the choreography is done well, even a bit too well, may I say. And the musical numbers work. They do. They work. They leap off the screen in the way you want them to. And the songs are catchy enough. And for a Christmas musical, the songs are more catchy than they have any right to be. They really are. And Dominic Lewis's musical score is way too over the top too. It seems to be a recurring theme, this whole notion of everything being over the top. But the musical score by Dominic Lewis, every time something is happening, like the action in the film starts to pick up, or the narrative starts to get more fast paced again, or something like that, something is about to happen, the score picks up and it's like, oh my god, we're doing a Christmas film, I have this score, go like this and be quite triumphant and be way over orchestral in this moment. And if you've seen the film, you'll know what I mean. Like, even to the smallest moments, you have this trumpet playing in the background, or you can hear the orchestra just pick up, and I'm like, whoa, the action's only picking up a little bit here. Let's not have the score that loud. And I must admit, the score didn't totally work for me, although it does have that Christmassy feel that musical scores to Christmas films should do. And the whole film, as I already said quite a few times, the whole film is way over the top, and it's way overdone. It's directed by Sean Anders, who I must admit I looked up his I'm not greatly familiar with him as a director, and I looked in his filmography up beforehand. It's got nothing notable on his filmography. He really hasn't. And in this film, it was like they were given a budget. I don't know what the budget was for this film, but it was like they were given a budget, and Sean Anders went, like, we're going to use every single penny of that budget, and you can see it on screen. I mean, I like that with films that have a substantial budget, and because the film stars the likes of Will Ferrel, Ryan Reynolds, and Octavia Spencer, I'm guessing it had a substantial budget, and you can tell it on screen because there's all these things going in the musical numbers, and it is almost like Sean Anders was behind the camera going, what can we add here? What can we have happen here? Can we get any more dancers in here for this musical number? What about this moment? How can we make this moment bigger? And not all of it works, but I like what he was going for. I would rather a director go all out with a Christmas musical like this than not, if you follow my thinking. I would rather him go all out with it, and that's what he does. And again, it doesn't all work, and sometimes it comes off like they're trying too hard, but at the same time, at least they were trying. And it gets to the point where, at the very end, they even cut back the curtain. They go behind the fourth wall, They literally show the crew at the end of the film. They do this one long panning shot of everybody in this room together, performing this musical number. And it doesn't quite work, but I liked it at the same time, if you get what I mean. I'm not sure how much I'm making sense here, but yeah, it doesn't quite work, but at the same time, it does. And that's pretty much the film overall. I mean, I shouldn't like it. I really shouldn't. Because it is not a great film. But it's a good Christmas film. And for a Christmas musical starring... This is what you'd get if you put Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds together for a Christmas musical. This is what you get. Like, if that's what you asked for Christmas. Like, I want Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds in a Christmas film together, and this was a present you were given. This is what you would expect from it. You know, this is what you'd expect from a Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell Christmas musical, and yeah, it delivered on what I expect it to be like. It's not anything that's gonna be... It's not one of those Christmas films that is gonna be remembered in years and years to come, I reckon. But I think it's worth a watch. Even just to stick on whilst you're putting your Christmas tree up, or whilst you're putting your Christmas decorations up, or something like that, if you haven't done that yet. You know, I really think it is a wonderfully joyful Christmas film. And one other thing I haven't mentioned is that I loved how this is one thing I really did love, I love how this film did a bit of a different take on the whole Christmas Carol story, because we've seen the Christmas Carol story done so many times, and sometimes it's been done great, like Muppets Christmas Carol. Sometimes it's been done not so great, like that Christmas Carol starring Jim Carrey, which is all animated and directed by Robert Zemeckis, which didn't really work. And so yeah, it was nice to see a new take on the Christmas Carol story, because we've seen the story done so many times, and what this film does different, what Spirited does different, is that it tells the story from two perspectives. It tells the story from the perspective of the ghost of Christmas Present, of the ghosts of Christmas, and then it tells the story from the perspective of the Scrooge-like character, this time played by Ryan Reynolds. And I really loved how it did that, because it could have just done the Christmas Carol story again, in a way we've seen before, in a very similar way to, say, Scrooge. But at the same time, though, it didn't. It did tell the Christmas Carol story. This is still a version of the classic Christmas Carol story, which has been done so many times, but it's done in a more creative and original way, and I like that they did that, and didn't just tell the same story again. They could have, but they didn't. But at the same time, though, they sort of did, but it's also different, you know. And I really admired how they did that. And I really enjoyed this film. It's not going to be for everybody, and I can completely understand why some people watch this film and go, well, that was a complete waste of time. That I was cringing to from start to finish. That was one of the cheesiest films I've watched over the past couple of years. I can completely understand why some people would feel that way. That being said, I think it is a wildly entertaining film. Now, I think this is a wildly entertaining film full of Christmas joy that comes off the screen. You really get the feeling, and I don't know this for certain, maybe they didn't have a good time making this film. Maybe Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds hate each other. I don't think that's the case, by the way, because Will Ferrell has in the past year visited Ryan Reynolds' football club in England. So I don't think that is the case, but maybe they hate each other in real life. Maybe they hated making this film together. And maybe the production was complete hell. But you don't feel that when you're watching the film. You feel like everybody involved in the production of this film was passionate about it, was enjoying what they were making. And that comes off the screen, and it comes off the screen in a way that you want it to, in a way that's not smug, in a way that's not going, oh, look what we've done, look how magical it is. No, it just comes off the screen. It just comes off the screen, and it makes the film more joyful. And yeah, it worked for me, and I'm happy that it did, because I was really looking forward to watching it all year, because as I mentioned, I didn't get a chance to watch it last year, unfortunately, because of uni work, and this year it was like a really nice early Christmas present, you know, because I'm not the biggest fan of Ryan Reynolds or Will Ferrell, but I must admit, even they worked for me in this film. It's overcooked, it's not a great film whatsoever, but it's a good Christmas film, and I I really enjoyed it. And so, all in all, I'm going to say it's spirited. You know what? I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Yeah, this film made me smile. And as I mentioned, I enjoyed it. And if a film is enjoyable, or if a film is really enjoyable, in fact, like this film was, then it's doing something right, And this film, in my opinion, did quite a few things right. I admired a lot how it was a different take on the Christmas Carol story. I also love how Tracy Morgan, who I will always remember as Tracy Jordan from 30 Rock, which is one of the best comedies of the past 20 years. It's so good if you haven't checked that out. And that has some great Christmas episodes too. I loved how Tracy Morgan plays the ghost of Christmas future. I love how he was put in there. There are some jokes which don't work. Tony's all over the place. It's messy. There are a lot of things thrown at this film that don't always work. Some sequences in the film were necessary. The musical score is over the top. Some songs sound like the songs out of The Greatest Showman, which is understandable because they're by the same people. Some of the musical numbers, some of the songs aren't as catchy as they could be. And it's not a great film. And if you're not really a fan of Ryan Reynolds or Will Ferrel, this may not be for you. Although I'm not really a fan of them too. And this film was for me. And I enjoyed it. I really, 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 really enjoyed it. Yeah, you get the point I'm making. I like this film far more than I expected to, and I definitely recommend it. Unfortunately, it is on Apple TV Plus, which I know not everybody has. Not everybody has Apple TV Plus, so it may be one which isn't actually available to you. But if you do have Apple TV Plus, check it out. Even if you just stick it on whilst you're putting up the Christmas tree, I really think you'll enjoy it. I think it's a film that the whole family will enjoy too. There's one thing I haven't mentioned yet. It's a really good family film. A film which the whole family can sit down and I think everybody will get something out of it. I really think that's the case. And you know what? It's a good Christmas film to come out of the past however many years. It's been a long while since I said, oh, that was a really good Christmas film. That was a really good new, or in this case, newish Christmas film because it came out last year. And that's really happy to say too, because we don't get many good Christmas films nowadays. And you know what? This is a good Christmas film, if ever so slightly overblown. And so, all in all, as I already said, I enjoyed this film. I liked it. It's a good Christmas film. And the reason for that is because it filled me with Christmas joy. And that is the biggest reason I liked it. And so, as I've already said as well, I'm going to say it's spirited. I'm going to say that it's a 7 out of 10 from me. Anyway, guys, that is it for today's podcast. If you have seen Spirited, then please let me know your thoughts on it in the comment section below. Maybe you didn't really like this film. Maybe you saw it last year, it wasn't really for you. If that's the case, that's totally fair. And please let me know why in the comment section below. Or maybe you feel similar to me and you watched this film last year and you thought it was just absolutely wonderful. Whatever your thoughts are on Spirited, please let me know in the comment section below. And also, let me know if you want me to review any Christmas films or anything Christmassy over the next 24 days. I keep wanting to say 25 days, but it's not 24 days. But it's not 25 days, sorry. The 1st of December now. So yeah, if you want me to review anything in particular, Christmas films or maybe even a Christmas special, then please let me know in the comment section below. I'm open to any ideas. So yeah, let me know if you want me to review anything Christmassy in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching or listening to this podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do click down below and like and subscribe on this podcast. And look forward to many more podcasts coming very, very soon on this channel. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this podcast. And I suppose this is it. So I will see you guys again soon. But bye for now. Bye.